Hello and welcome to the Comic Watcher Show, episode 84. I'm your host, Matt. With me, as ever, are Nick and Mike. Gentlemen, how are we this week?
Good. For better or for worse with the rest of the world, but we're good.
Yeah. I strongly suspect we might get into conversations about the state of the world this week. We have a special guest with us this week. We have YouTube host...
Oh, he froze.
Oh, the Oklahoma internet strikes again.
What timing?
I guess this would be the part where we edit.
It just right out.
I don't know if you guys watch Charmed. It was like somebody like Piper froze.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. My internet is known to be fun sometimes. So,
You want to just start
this week about Black exceptionalism and LGBTQ plus representation in comics. So we thought we better bring in an expert, which is where Michael Simeon comes in. Michael, thank you so much.
I'm not my expert.
Well, listen, we're glad to have you here regardless. You know, I've watched a lot of the episodes on your channel. You're obviously well-read, smart, know what you're talking about. So thank you for hanging out with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
So we kind of wanted to just do like a sort of a roundtable primer on, like I said, Black exceptionalism and LGBTQ plus representation in comics, and just see where the conversation takes us. So, Michael, your thoughts? This is a very politically charged time right now, obviously.
Yeah.
So, without getting into too much of a tangent on the state of the union right now, what are your thoughts on Black exceptionalism in comics?
Well, yeah, I'm gonna try not to go on a rant because I tend to do that, but
It's okay.
Well, yeah, just in terms of like Black exceptionalism in comics, especially with the times that we're going in right now, because I made a couple posts on my Instagram, just, you know, as a Black Gay Comic Geek. I was just saying, like, why is it that we don't have like an all Black team of like X-Men? That's something I would love to see, or like an all Black Avengers or an all Black Justice League. Like, we have like all white teams all the time. And so I'm like, I feel like that it would be cool. And it's not like we don't have a whole bunch of Black creatives. Like my pitch for in terms of like a creative would be Eve Ewing, who did the Ironheart series.
Yes.
Drawn by I just draw a blank for his name, but the guy that drew Black Panther. Why am I drawing a blank at his name? With Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Still freeze?
Brian Stelfreeze. There we go.
Yeah.
Those would be my
for that one.
Yeah.
I was like,
I'm like, I just posted about it. I should remember this.
right.
The other guy just disappeared. So
Matt's given us some internet difficulties here, but we're just going to keep things rolling, and he's going to try to see if he can fix it. Scoop will step in as our guest host here.
Oh, great. Thanks.
We'll kind of
pressure on this guy over here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, for my X-Men team, I said that would be my dream creative team, Eve Ewing and Brian Stelfreeze for the X-Men team. And I just feel like overall, like, it's considering how many creatives we have, like, I feel like it's about time. Like, give it to me. Like, I just want it. Like, we have so many fabulous Black creatives, and not even just that, but like, I remember when Roxane Gay first wrote The Worlds of Wakanda with Ayo and Anika for Black Panther. She was like the first Black woman to ever write in a Marvel comic. And I'm just like, that's crazy to me, because it wasn't like it was 10, 20, 30 years. This was like 2 years ago or so. And there's so many great comic creators, and I can just go on a tangent. I'm good with questions. Ask me a specific question.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, though, really, because it's interesting when you talk about Black exceptionalism in comics and you think, you know, the shoulders that we're standing on from 10, 20 years ago, and you're really talking about things that were still happening right now. Just, you know, you can determine it in months ago. And I think that warrants the whole discussion that we're having.
Yeah, I just feel like because people keep saying, "Oh, just wait," and it'll come, especially like when it came to the Marvel movies, because people kept saying, "Oh, when are we going to get a black superhero? When are we going to get a black super?" People kept saying, "Oh, just wait," and yeah, finally we got Black Panther, but it got to a point where it's like, well, how long do we have to wait? And then even with Black Panther, when's the next one? Because we have plenty of like a Blue Marvel. When can he get a movie? Or like people kept talking about, oh, let's do a Wolverine movie, let's do a Rogue movie, let's do a Jean Grey movie, but nobody was saying let's do a Storm movie. Storm is one of the most prominent X-Men, and she has a huge and intricate backstory with the mythology, with her having a connection to magic, which they never really talk about in the movie. They really don't even talk about it in the comics that much.
It's true.
Yeah, and I think especially even now, I mean, we're in 2020, and like you said, we're just now getting to, the black creators and the writers and making their own books, and the thing is it's almost like it's two battles. It's getting the fresh voices and the fresh, creators to these books, but at the same time, you're battling like, these old heads was like, why we got to change it? Well, why we got to change it? Why do we got to do stuff? But at the same time, it's like, this is that's what makes comics great. There's a reason why Black Panther was created. There's a reason why, G. Willow Wilson came up with Kamala Khan, is the inclusiveness, the diversity in comics. So it's almost like two battles. You want to see the Storm movies. You want to see the all black X-Men team, which are great ideas. But it's like, it's how do you champion these? And it's all you're fighting people like, well, why do you got to change it? Well, why can't we change it? Why does it have to be like this?
I think part of it is just because there's not a whole lot of black and brown faces that are actually making the decisions.
True. Very true. Very true.
So nobody at the top is saying, maybe a black team of Avengers or whatever might be a good idea.
Yeah,
exactly. It seems like most of the time people don't want to diversify because of the fact they think they're going to lose money over it, or they don't think that there's going to be enough of a draw. But realistically, there are enough black and brown people in America that you could have an actual viewing audience. You can have an audience for it.
Yeah, it's almost the same concept when it comes to like female superheroes. People are always saying, oh, female superheroes don't sell. Female superheroes don't sell. Just look at the movie Supergirl. It's like, no, Supergirl was a shit movie. That's why it didn't make any money. It wasn't because it was about Supergirl. It was like, give us a good movie.
Yeah.
And then it'll do well.
Exactly. And that's the other thing too, is that most people that are doing these movies and creating these, they're not black or brown, so they don't have the perspective to put into it.
And I'm sorry,
so
can I curse?
Yes.
Okay.
So then you can't even like view it through the authentic scope that it should be viewed through.
Yeah, that was something, even doing research for this episode, I'm going through a lot of books that I like, and they feature black characters, but they're written by white men. And I think that's something that falls into the discussion, and it falls into representation, but it comes into the discussion in a unique way for black exceptionalism.
And that's not necessarily to take away from the white creators that have done, because for the most part, the majority of the superheroes of color that we love were created by white men. Storm, Black Panther, Ironheart, Miles Morales, and even like Brian Michael Bendis' run on Ultimate Spider-Man, where he created Miles Morales. It was great. It was good. I really enjoyed it. But there's only but so much that as a white person you can talk about, or things or issues that you can talk about. Like I remember there was a time where Miles Morales, I can't remember if this was the Ultimate Universe or when he was in the 616, the main universe, but his costume got cut. And so somebody filmed him and they saw that it was a brown kid as Spider-Man. and it was on the news. Somebody posted on the Marvel Universe's version of YouTube, and a person was excited because they're like, "Oh my God, it's a brown superhero." Miles Morales came up. He said it in the caption like, "I don't want to be known as I don't want to be a brown Spider-Man." It's like I feel like an actual black. I feel like an actual black person wouldn't say that, especially considering he's like covered from head to toe, and there aren't really that many black superheroes that are visible. I feel like he'd actually be excited about that. Like, oh look, somebody's actually happy that they identify with a brown superhero, and I help them like come up with that or identify with that. Like, great. But he, on the other hand, was like, oh, I don't want to be known as a brown superhero. That's what Brian Michael Bendis wrote from his lens. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not. To me, it didn't come across as an authentic reaction.
That's interesting. I think because that's something the movie, the adaptation of that story ended up playing on so much too. Like anybody could be on the mask.
But yeah, they did. But I kind of feel like the origin in the movie was way better than his origin in the comic. And I feel like they directly tied it to Peter Parker, which made it more impactful and better, because in the comics, he just got bit by a spider. He knew who Spider-Man was, but he never actually met Peter Parker because Peter Parker was already dead before then. But in the movie, Peter Parker literally passed the mantle on to him. He's like, kid, only you can do this. You have the same powers I do. Don't let Kingpin do the collider. Don't let him get the device to do the collide. Like, it connected his origin more to Spider-Man. That's also a problem I had with Riri Williams. Like, I love her as a character, but they didn't connect her origin more to Tony Stark. They just automatically said, oh, you're Ironheart, you're Iron Man, but where was the mentorship?
Yeah.
I will say, and I'm hesitant to jump in because like every time I try, my internet shits out. But
we'll cross our fingers. I hope it doesn't.
Fingers crossed. Like the Riri Williams, I just wanted to make the comment that, like, I definitely feel where you're coming from with the lack of mentorship, because it was, in terms of just storytelling, so clunky. But then once we crossed that bridge and she was flying solo, awesome character.
Yes.
You know, it's totally worth anyone's time to read. It was just that clunky way that they got there. And unfortunately, for all their good intentions during that Marvel Now era, there's a lot of clunky storytelling that happened with generational legacy heroes that popped up during that time. And it pissed a lot of people off. And, you know, they're just pissed off because things are changing. And, you know,
yeah, that's that too.
But
nerd don't like change, and I'm part of that too.
For CG or anything like that. But you know, it was abrupt in a lot of instances, and I think that it all could have been handled a lot more elegantly. And I don't know. That's just kind of my 2 cents on that era, because we did wind up getting a lot of awesome characters out of it. I mean, we got Jane Foster as Thor, Riri Williams, Miles Morales came a little before that era, but still is inextricably tied to it. And people just kind of got this tunnel vision because of the inelegant way that a lot of this transition happened. And then the sudden shift, you know, Sam Wilson was the most badass Captain America out there.
Yes.
You won't ever tell me otherwise.
And I'm excited for the Falcon and Winter Soldier movie or TV Plus show.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And for all that sort of stutter-stepped progress that they made in terms of execution, they, you know, within a couple 3 years, they'd walked most of it back. And I mean, it's just almost the very definition of you know, 2 steps forward, 1.5 steps back.
Yeah, I probably kind of feel like that's just comics in general. They're just scared to stick to their guns. Like when they did the whole Secret Wars event, and the entire, like, Jonathan Hickman just gave it to them on the silver platter, and they could have just completely rebooted the entire Marvel universe and just ran with it. But then, they came out with their now all new, all different Marvel. You're going to get a whole new lineup. Everything's going to be different. And then, you know, if you're new to comics, this is the perfect jump on point. But it wasn't all new and all different. Everything was still the same from before Secret Wars, and it kind of lessened my enjoyment for Secret Wars. Granted, I love Secret Wars, but it made me go, then what was the point? Because everything's still the same.
Oh yeah, well, I think ultimately, from a perspective of the higher ups, the point was to get Miles Morales into the
that's really what the point was.
And I hate that because like 80 issues of buildup in Avengers to the Secret Wars, and then Secret Wars is awesome, and then it winds up being inconsequential.
Yeah, it was just like a fart in the wind. Like,
damn it.
It comes up in this discussion, and I think in a much heavier way, because you're handling these characters that carry a significant importance for like the direction of Marvel. And when they fumble it in such a way, it's disappointing to see. And I'm glad Miles got the film adaptation, so more eyes would look at the character and kind of see how awesome they are and what they bring to the table. But it's kind of tough to see that happening anytime soon. Like Michael said, where's the next one? They're immediately talking about bringing in like all these other characters and stuff. But these things, like, I don't know, it's something with comics where they're putting that step forward, and then they just move. They have to move back to, I guess, cater to the people who are not willing to take that change.
And I also think part of it is like, I feel like they don't really plan as much when they introduce these characters. Like going back to like Riri, for example, like her introduction came when it was directly during Civil War II. So, and in Civil War II, Iron Man died. So there really was no time for there to be any type of mentorship between Riri and Tony. And even like when they gave Spider-Woman her own solo comic, they directly tied her first issue was during Spider-Verse. And it's like, you shouldn't introduce, or granted, she's not being introduced, but she's getting her first issue. It shouldn't be tied to an event, because if I'm a person that doesn't really read comics that much, but I see a Spider-Woman issue and I want to pick it up because maybe I never heard of the character, or maybe I'm just like, ooh, a female character, let me see what it's about. And I'm not reading that event, I'm going to be completely lost. And this is the first issue. So like it makes no sense to me. It's like, who's running this? I mean, obviously I know who's running it, but I'm like, do better. Do better, Marvel.
Yeah.
I think that's an issue with Marvel. So looking at where they're at now, do you have certain recommendations for where you would think somebody should really jump into comics, like that are looking for an example for Black exceptionalism from Marvel?
I say, like, if you want to read about like Black characters from Black creators, like the Ironheart series, which was great. It really elevated her character, which was written by a Black woman, Eve Ewing. The Power Man and Iron Fist book, written by David F. Walker. You said Marvel, the Black Panther from Ta-Nehisi Coates and Brian Stelfreeze. That definitely expanded the world of Wakanda more than the Black Panther character. He just really, and actually that's where a lot of the Black Panther movie came from. What Ta-Nehisi Coates did with Black Panther. So, and in terms of like, I got a whole bunch of like recommendations that aren't just Marvel, but
I noticed we were kind of leaning on Marvel there. I do read a lot of Marvel though, like because I have the Marvel Unlimited app. So, definitely. but also because of that, because Marvel Unlimited app, and anything that's new doesn't show up on there until like 6 months later. So I'm like 6 months behind everybody. Yeah, I think the DC Universe app is doing the same thing now, where they have that same.
We're not gonna talk about DC Universe Online is trash.
Oh,
I'm like, why do people still like? Because they did this huge rollout. Oh, we're gonna have all these new shows and all. It's like now all the shows like Titans and Doom Patrol, they're all going to HBO Max now. Swamp Thing, they had it. They canceled it after the first season. They didn't even let the first season finish. They just canceled it after the first episode.
It was like the first episode.
Yes, I keep hearing people say it's so good, but I'm the type of person, if I know a show is canceled, I'm not going to waste my time, because especially if I'm invested in it, I'm gonna be pissed off, because I'm like, I want more. Like I remember, and this is gonna be completely off topic, but there's a show called Smash that they coined as the adult version of Glee. And everybody kept saying, because I got my degree in theater and I love musical theater and all this other stuff. And so everybody kept telling me, like, Michael, you need to watch the show. You need to watch the show. It's basically an adult Glee. And so I went and I bought the first season because the second season was about to come out. I went and bought the first season on Blu-ray. And then right before I was about to watch the first season, I saw the headline, Smash has been canceled. I said, oh, fuck this. So I didn't even watch it. I still have the Blu-ray on my shelf. I never watched it to this day. It's just money I wasted because I didn't watch it. But because again, I'm the type of person, if I know a show is canceled, like, why am I investing myself knowing I'm not going to get more? But that's just me, because some people are like, well, you should still watch it. It's great. I'm like, no, fuck that.
It is great. But I guess to its service, the CW put it like shoehorned in a little clip during their Crisis event where you got to see some of Swamp Thing in it. So he returned for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard CW is going to put it on their network. I'm like, isn't it kind of dark? I mean, granted, I didn't see it, but most of the DC Universe shows were kind of dark. I'm like, I don't see that going on the Swamp Thing.
So about DC, do you read a lot of DC? Do you have some recommendations for us on where you think people should start with them?
As far as Black creators, because I don't really read that much DC. But yeah, I can't think of anything in terms of like Black creators for DC, because like all the because I could think of plenty of Black characters, but most of them are like written by like Black Lightning and
John Stewart, the Green Lantern.
all written by
Naomi is co-authored by David Walker.
Yeah. It's co-written by David Walker. I haven't read Naomi.
It's awesome. I loved it. Very, very good, strong stuff. And
I know there's some controversy around the whole Batman and the Outsiders with Brian Edward Hill writing Black Lightning, because Tony Isabella came after him after the way he's written him up against Batman. I don't know if you've read that run at all.
No, I haven't read it. I saw the headline of him being pissed off about it, but I didn't really read what actually happened.
Yeah, differences of opinion and how they approach the character is ultimately what I got out of that. But it seems like there is less to recommend on DC side if you're jumping into it right now.
Most definitely, especially right now, DC doesn't know what the fuck they're doing right now. Like with Rebirth and then 5G, and now 5G might be canceled. And then I heard a rumor saying if 5G didn't do well, they might Warner Brothers, and because AT&T now owns Warner Brothers in DC and all that stuff, they might be willing to sell off DC, kind of like Marvel did with like selling off certain rights to certain characters, which I think would be terrible. So I don't know what's going on with DC right now. Like Rebirth was great; they should have continued with that. Like screw this 5G stuff. Like I don't know what's going on with them.
Yeah, DC has, in my opinion, as just kind of an amateur comics historian, is forever playing catch up with whatever is going on in society or pop culture. So it shouldn't come as a huge surprise that the company that didn't have a solo Black character, i.e. Black Lightning, until 1978, is not representing very well. Do they have some great characters out there? Yeah. I mean, if we're talking LGBTQ, Batwoman, Kate Kane, that's a whole, I mean, she's got a legion of loyal fans, and there's probably a whole separate episode that we could do about the non-wedding and all of that drama. But just in terms of general representation, especially among the Black community, yeah, they've got some great characters, but where are they in the spotlight? Where's the Black creators? Jamal Campbell, artist of
Far Sector, and Naomi,
obviously, and N.K. Jemisin, she's Black, but beyond that, I'm drawing a blank. I really am.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I know there's not. Am I just like tripping? But yeah, I was like, there's not really that. But yeah, Far Sector, that's something if you like Green Lantern, and I don't think you really need to have that much Green Lantern. Just know Green Lantern
Space
ring.
cops.
Yeah, gives you the power to create any construct you want, and you're basically a space cop.
Yeah, they played to the detective mystery angle really hard on that series. It was really great. And I thought Naomi was some of the best artwork of that year. I actually think I voted Campbell for best artist of the year, and I was like,
I know,
there's so much in there, but man, like Naomi just got overlooked.
Yeah, the art in Far Sector is fucking great. Like, it's really great.
But there's just not a lot for the big two. I mean, the discussion pretty quickly turns to indie books, and I think people or creators outside of the big two are ultimately where a lot of the main comics discussion is happening. I think in the content, and it feels like the big two are catching up.
And I mean, in some ways, I kind of get it because there are so many different characters that they are constantly introducing, and there are only but so many books. So it's not like you can really get to all of them. Like, not everybody can get a spotlight because there are a shit ton of characters. But I feel like in some ways, because of that, I feel like they should have a bunch of like different rotations. Like maybe during this time, we're going to focus on, I don't know, we're going to do a Gambit book, but then that's going to be taken out of rotation, and then we're going to do Storm, and now that's going to be taken out of rotation, and hey, let's do an LGBTQ character, and let's have Wiccan and Hulkling have a run. All right, let's take that out of rotation, and let's introduce somebody else, and just the constant, like, so everybody can get a chance to more or less see themselves in a character, basically, because they have a lot of great characters, and this is something I did years ago, but like, during Black History Month on my Instagram, I profiled every day I profiled a Black superhero. During Asian American Heritage Month, I said munch, what? I profiled an Asian superhero. During Native American History Month, Heritage Month, I profiled Native American superheroes every day for the month of November. During Hispanic Heritage Month, I profiled Hispanic characters. During that month, it's like, and some of the characters I never even heard of until I did this profiling, and I was like, where the hell have where have these characters been? Like, there's this guy in DC talking about Black characters. His name is Josiah Power, and he's basically DC's version of Luke Cage, and he's like brooding. He has the same type of powers, and he's gay, and he's a lawyer, and he's super powerful. And I'm just like, where has he been? Like, all this talk about, because they're always quick to, these companies, especially nowadays, because it's cool, it's the end thing, to say, hey, let's throw this character in there for diversity points, or let's do this for diversity points. And it's like, if you really want some real diversity, like, give these characters a chance, and then let it be done by people that actually can speak, not even just people that are in that community, but then people that are actually good, because like Center Grace did Iceman, and I thought it was fucking terrible, but he's a he's a gay man, but it was terrible.
That's a hot take here at Comic Watch. We've got some reviews and some people who really love that Iceman run, I think.
Sorry, but me after. Yeah, I couldn't get into it. I gave it like 5 issues. And I think the moment where I was like, I'm done is, and I get it. But when he said to Kitty Pryde, "Ninja, please." And I was like, no, don't do that. And I get people saying like they're trying to justify. He was like, well, he was talking to Kitty Pryde, and Kitty Pryde's an actual ninja. I was like, yes, I get that, but you know what that meant. And yeah, no.
Wow.
Yeah, AVE is not a good look. Like, unless you're part of the community, not a good look.
Yeah, and not even just that, but also the reason I couldn't get into it is because I feel like if you're gonna give these characters a solo run, justify the reason that they have a solo run. Like, for the most part, Iceman was in the X mansion, and he was dealing with X-Men problems. He wasn't really having establishing his own rogues gallery and really dealing with his own solo Iceman problems. Just like when Wolverine gets an issue, you take him out the X-Mansion and he has his own rogues gallery, the Truth, Lady Deathstrike, Omega Red, and the Weapon X program. Like, you're giving him a reason to be solo. When Storm had her comic, she was in like Africa certain times, but like Iceman, it was just like, okay, why do I care about Iceman being solo if it's basically an X-Man book?
Mm-hmm. Which I guess ties into a lot of issues. Like you can't really give this character the weight they deserve because there's so many other things happening with these larger publishers that they're almost, you know, restrained from the start before they can get their own series.
Yeah, and then also going back to like people that aren't part of that community not writing them, like his whole coming out was severely mishandled. Like Jean Grey reading his mind and like, oh, you're gay. What? It looks like, no, don't.
What?
Yeah.
You don't out someone like that.
Yeah, do better.
And she says it all innocent, like, what did I do? You know what you did.
Yeah, like, yeah, do better. Like that was
Yeah,
that was terrible. And
that was awful. Oh, go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and I saw people saying, because there are also people that thought, oh well, making Iceman come out as gay is super forced and all this other stuff. It's like, no, truth is
no,
yeah.
It was actually perfect. Because you go back to
the that's what I was gonna say. If you go back, there's been plenty of hints. Maybe not necessarily that he was gay, but he was definitely hiding something. There was something that he couldn't accept within himself, and the fact that they decided to make it an issue of homosexuality completely worked.
Yes, yeah, it's the rare instance where a retcon really truly works. I mean, go back to that very first issue of X-Men, and you know, Jean Grey shows up and all the guys are fawning over her and, oh, she's so pretty. And then Iceman is just like, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, there's precedent.
Or even how Polaris called him a dispassionate lover.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Or how when he wasn't dating Rogue, but he wanted to show off Rogue to his parents. He brought Rogue home to his parents. He was like, hey, look, this is my girlfriend. Like, like, hey, I'm not gay.
Yeah. Long string of failed relationships with women. Lots and lots of posturing and overcompensation. Dude, Iceman's gay.
My big ship, my dream ship is like Iceman and Human Torch. like Game of Thrones, the Song of Fire and Ice.
It's very hot and cold.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a relationship with another Pyro, but I want Human Torch and Iceman, especially since they did reveal in that one issue that they're probably never going to talk about ever again that Human Torch is pansexual. So he had a thing with Dakin.
And that's complicated when the pheromone controls with him. We put out a reading recommendation list, and I included the X-Men Siege one where he kissed Hawkeye, and just like reading the comment section on people talking about that book is wild because he basically uses the pheromone control to distract him.
Well, part of me also feels like, yeah, but pheromones can only go so. Oh, I feel a sneeze coming. Hold up. That's not. But yeah, I'm like, pheromones can only go but so far, unless like if there's nothing there, then no amount of pheromones is gonna.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, but I ship a lot of people, so. But I want.
Well, somebody shipped Storm and Black Panther, and bang, they were married like next month. So.
Yeah, and they got a divorce like the next month after that.
Yeah.
Like come and go, and even that, like I didn't like the way that was handled. Like it was super quick.
It was not only that, but they forced a retcon in there of both of their backstories to make them intertwined. And I mean, honestly, they get them together because they're their two most prominent African characters. You know, they have to concoct a reason for them to fall in love or whatever and have this history, and it's like, well, they must be married now.
Which I don't necessarily have a problem with, because when you think about it, the only real black couples in comics, especially enduring black couples in comics, are really Mal and Bumblebee. Other than that, there really aren't any black couples in comics. So if you want to make Storm and Black Panther a couple, fine, but do it better.
Yeah. I mean, I guess this is the point where I say Al and Wanda from Spawn are kind of wishy-washy for a lot of issues.
Spawn up.
I was just waiting for my chance to drop it.
That man's face is being held together by a shoelace. I'm not sure.
I was waiting for that one.
Getting there.
But there's really not a lot of examples of couples. I mean, especially if you're talking about like black characters you can get into, it's hard enough. And then when you talk about, black couples that are taking the forefront in books, it's even less. And it's something that I think comes up. But
well, actually, no. Now they just recently put Monica Rambeau and Blue Marvel together. So that's another one.
Okay. Shout out to the Mighty Avengers, which was a fantastic book. So, Michael, moving on to the world of indie comics, what all books are out there that you could recommend as primers for Black exceptionalism or LGBTQ representation?
Definitely Bitterroot.
Woo!
Written by David Walker, Sanford Brown, Sanford Green. I said Sanford Brown. And it basically takes place in the 20s, Harlem, and the best way to describe it is just a black family of monster hunters. 1920s Harlem. It's great. I believe, because I have the first trade paperback, so I'm just waiting for the trades to come out. But I believe they're on issue 7 right now, I think.
Okay.
I read the first 5 because that's what's in this trade. Another one that I actually reviewed the first issue on my YouTube channel, but let me get so I can show it. Oh. Just give me just a second. But it's called Excellence.
Okay.
Yes. And it's written by Brandon Thompson and Kari Randolph is the artist. And it's basically about a family of magic users and one particular kid who is from this prominent family of magic users, but maybe he doesn't have powers. Maybe he does. And I coined it. Like if you like the magicians and Harry Potter, you'll definitely like this book. And the art is art is great. Yeah,
definitely. Do you know who the publisher is behind that book?
Image.
Oh, it's an Image book.
Yeah.
But
and I think Bitterroot is Image as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's something that kind of speaks to Image. You can find a lot there. It's just so much different stuff. But I know we've all kind of done some research, or maybe open it up. Scoop, what recommendations did you bring to the table here?
Yeah, recommendations. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pass this one on to our host Matt.
You passed
Hang on one second. Let's pass it to Nick because I got to grab my phone real quick.
Look at you! Look at y'all passing it around. I've already showed Black Panther Coats and Still Freeze. I think is kind of the first recommendation if somebody just walks up to me off the street and says, what am I trying to read? It's a book that instantly gets to the heart of what the big two, I think, struggle with in representation, and also putting the character in a place of power so it's not subject to certain lore and world building that have already pre-established. And I think putting Black Panther in that position where he's dealing with, I think the title of the arc is A Nation Under Our Feet or something like that. And it's kind of like a splintering Wakanda. I think It's hard not to recommend that one. I mean, you'll see it time and time again, but it's pretty quick. You know, I'm going to go Valiant. I always got to drop the Valiant recommendations because
You take that crap Valiant walk. No.
Yeah, I will always quote Vin Diesel introducing the Bloodshot movie by saying the big three and including Valiant in it. I love it. But Livewire from Vita Ayala did an amazing job. It's a book that Valiant finally really got behind because they've had issues with multiple issues in the past. They kind of like to end their stories at 4 or 8 issues, and they don't really extend longer. Livewire's extended for over a year, I believe, so it was a great run for them, and Vita did some awesome work with it. And if you're into Livewire more, they have Secret Weapons, which I would love to quickly plug in our Valiant Watch episode that we got to talk with senior editor Heather Antos, and she said this was the book that got her into Valiant. So it is definitely a recommendation. Livewire is a character that Valiant's definitely put a lot behind, and she's found herself separate from the Harbingers and Toyo Harada, and they're giving her weight and substance and consequence that you just don't find in other stories, and I love it. And lastly, I think you can check out the show if you haven't seen it already. Mags has got Vagrant Queen, and the show, I've watched the first few episodes and I think it was really good, but the book feels really different. I love the artwork in it. I don't know if I can get a good little preview here, but the show felt a little different in the tone, but it still got the characters really right. And I think there's a lot of great representation now, and I think fans have just really, it's always trending on my timeline and everything. I'm like, yeah, it's good. Like, been trying to get people to read it from before the show, and I think people are checking it out now. But Janae, I think she came with a list of recommendations too.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna talk about like anybody from the big two or anything like that. I'm looking more towards like actual independent comic creators. So lots of people that do online comics. One person in particular who's my favorite is Marcus Prime. I don't know if anybody follows him on Insta or Twitter, but he created this webcomic called Oh Nah, and it follows his two main characters are Bay and Boo, and he does a really good job of like creating comics based around the Black experience and like how you love. And he also does really good at incorporating queer characters into his work too. So that's one person. Bianca Eunice. She also is a webcomic creator. She does a lot of comics for The Nib. And she's a self-proclaimed Black goth punk nonconformist. She focuses on like creating comics about how mental health issues are still prominent within the Black community and how you can handle them without the help that is provided to other people. And then, yeah, she's a complete badass. I can't talk about her enough. And then last but not least is Jetty Lewis. She has this comic strip called Isolation Comics, which it's now more prevalent than ever, but she's been doing it for like the last 3.5 years, I believe. But it's all based around her experiences interacting with people as like a self-proclaimed hermit and how she just goes through day-to-day life living as a Black person. So all really good comics that I've been looking to within these times because it's been so crazy.
Yeah, it's been crazy between COVID and now everything that's going on now.
Yeah.
And then even with like LGBTQ comics, like Young Avengers, I love the Young Avengers. Hopefully they get a Disney Plus show or movie, something like that. And then two of my favorite characters who I really want them to get a movie, especially since they keep saying, oh, we might not do another Man of Steel movie. Midnighter and Apollo.
Yeah.
The gay version of Batman and Superman. It's like
Steve Orlando's run, so good.
Yeah, Steve Orlando's run. Like start with Midnighter, which Steve Orlando did, then do Midnighter and Apollo. And I definitely want I keep tweeting DC, but nobody's listening to me. Who am I? I'm like, give us a Midnighter and Apollo movie. And then also do Constantine justice and give him his own series again, but put it on cable and not NBC. Like Constantine is our character. And don't let David Goyer do it because David Goyer is trash.
And maybe we can get a special appearance by King Shark. I think there's something there we need to explore.
Yeah, I was like, when I saw that from Justice League Apocalypse War, I was like, I want to see the sex tape because I need to know how that works.
Like that wasn't just a nod. That is real stuff. Like we got to get something on that. Like I need a mini series or something.
Yeah, I was like,
Constantine sex tape.
Because I'm like, I'm very confused right now. But it's fine. I don't kink shame. You wanna get done by a shark man? That's fine with me.
Hey, no shame in your kinks.
Yeah, no shame in your kinks.
Goodness.
Oh, and also Wicked and Divine. Those are LGBT
So good.
characters in there.
Yeah, definitely. There's so many when you start looking into the indie books, because I think that's where I guess you have a little bit more flexibility. And like I'm with Janae reading web comics all the time, and I read a lot more from like the Big Two and Valiant and these publishers, and it's interesting to see that difference in what you can find and kind of the perspectives of life that you can find, because you got to really dig in some of these Marvel and DC books to find a perspective that is kind of a modern slice of life story like that. They're all hidden in all of these different layers and complexities of the superhero genre and stuff.
I think that's because they have to like dilute it to the point where literally anybody can read it and it's, comprehensible. But
and not even just that, but even when you look into indies, there still isn't necessarily, you still won't necessarily be able to find everything for everybody, but it's still way better than the Big Two.
mm-hmm.
I used to be a cosplayer, but I'm retired. But I used to say all the time, and this was before they came out and said, "Oh, we're gonna decide to make Aqualad. We're gonna make Aqualad gay." And I used to say all the time, I used to be like, "There's no black gay superheroes. Like, there's nobody. If I want to cosplay as a black gay superhero, there's no superhero. There's no character for me. The only one we really have is Prodigy, but he's bi."
Mm.
And even then, they only really said it the one time when he kissed Hulkling. But it's just like, all right. And then we haven't really seen him since.
Yeah. Like, I think back what you said at the beginning of the episode, they'll do it and then you'll never hear from him again.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's weird because there's like almost like this hesitation to show femininity within strong male superheroes. Like they can't have both for some reason, and they can only be hypermasculine. But like we all know, that's not humanity.
I feel like they did it once with the character Bunker and Teen Titans for DC.
Huh? I'm gonna have to look them up.
In terms of femininity, even his powers, like it were pink. He was basically like a Green Lantern without a lantern, like. But his constructs that he created out of his hands were like pink.
Okay.
But then again, he hasn't been seen in a long time.
Yeah, that's a mystery character to me.
Yeah.
Hey, this is the first time I've heard of him. It's disappointing, really, because like a lot of the characters that you dig into that you're like, this is like good representation for you to read and find in the Big Two, but it's a super obscure reference and you've never seen them again.
Mm-hmm.
Most definitely. Mike, how about you? Do you have any recommendations you want to throw out there?
Oh, this guy. And he left.
I was like, what? I thought I gave mine.
Mike is also Scoop here at the Comic Watcher Show. That's my superhero name. But no, unfortunately, I mean, really, my only recommendations, I would probably maybe like Philadelphia or, something like that.
I meant to recommend that too. It's right over there.
Yeah.
On the show. Right.
And so it was one of those things like when I did get past, the buck all of a sudden, what to recommend? I'm like, maybe Philadelphia, but unfortunately, Philadelphia is like my only recommendation. Like I said, it's by Jason. Oh my God, Oh, I got it right here. Oh, I had to look it up.
Now, now I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, Rodney Barnes, and then Jason Alexander from
Spawn.
Yes, thank you very much.
I think that's a great recommendation, really, because I love Jason John Alexander's work, and also I've followed him for a while, and like I really loved what he did on Spawn, but in Philadelphia, he kind of taps into a historical element that is super interesting. And like I follow him on social media. He's in an interracial relationship, and I really dig like his perspective on things. And like I've found myself drawn to his work, but I fell into that same thing with Is Philadelphia something you'd recommend? Because it's one of those characters that's written by a white guy that it's about this Black experience. And I start flipping through my trades, and I didn't really realize that until the last couple of days that was so prominent in my collection. But Philadelphia, I think, is one of the better examples of a book like that. It's just so well done.
But and since we're on recommendations, a local comic guy, I did an interview for our website. The company is called Millennial Comics. And he writes Delta Dogs. His name is Vonell Young. He's out of Norfolk, Virginia. Actually, I think on his Facebook he might be out of Newport News, Virginia, but it's in the same area. But anyway, Millennial Comics, Delta Dogs, really cool. It's about these cousins, 7 cousins that have these superpowers. Right, and they just grow up just kind of clinging to hope. They're raised by their aunt, and the great thing about Delta Dogs is that Vonell wrote this about his experience. So all these cousins are how he grew up and how his cousins grew up. So it's really, really good. He just started season 2 of the book on Indiegogo. So that campaign's going right now, but you can find the books on Comixology, and really good guy. I've talked to him twice. We did an interview for the site. Total humble guy. Really good book. If you're looking for that, that Black owned, that Black created, story. It was really good. So it's probably would be a better recommendation than Philadelphia, if you will. Thanks, Nick, for shooting that down. No, whatever. Yeah, cool. Put me on the spot.
He did kind of shoot it down, but I was like,
he did, right? He was like,
I was thinking about recommending Philadelphia too.
Yeah, he was like, Philadelphia's great, but too bad it's written by a white guy. So they're down. So I'm like, oh, wait a second. Yeah, Vonell Young, Millennial Comics, Delta Dogs. Really good stuff, coming out of there. So there, Nick, is that a better recommendation?
I think the fact that all of us kind of thought Philadelphia speaks to how good it is, and it's definitely worth recommending.
There's another, hold on, let me see if I can find it. There's another book. There's an indie as well that I would recommend. Where is it?
By the way, Nick, we'll talk about this later in chat, by the way, and you're just, smashing me up on the show, but that's cool.
That's harsh. Only I'm allowed to smash people up.
I was so proud of Philadelphia too. I was like, oh hey, yeah, Philadelphia. Not in this world.
Okay. Sorry.
It's okay.
It's called Alchemist by PJ Sterling. And he's an indie comic. His company is called Ray Comics. And I'm gonna just read the synopsis because the synopsis being read from the actual book would be better than me describing it. But it says, in the far distant future, the planet Earth has become a desolate shell of its former decadence. Once great nations now lay in ruin. Monstrous subhuman creatures called Makai roam the Earth, terrorizing, feeding, and killing any living thing in their path. with each day, the human populace dwindles. Enter Cal, who's the main character, a time-traveling warrior whose body is inhabited by a symbiotic creature that at a moment's notice can transform him into a super-powered machine, almost kind of like a MacGyver type of way. Cal's quest to determine his heritage and source of his powers, his mysterious abilities, puts him in direct conflict with the Makai. After years of warring against them, Cal discovers that their origins are interconnected by one thing, a mythical city complex known as Okamus. Now Cal must journey to Okamus in an attempt to discover the secrets of his own beginnings and save humankind or lose both forever. This is kind of a, I don't know if you could see of the art.
Nice.
It's super tiny on my phone, but I assume it looks awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it looks good. Yeah. No,
I believe right now he has, I think he's planning on doing 6 issues for right now, but I think only 4 are out right now.
nice.
Okay.
But yeah, if you can if you're interested, you can find his comics on Ray RAE Comics on Instagram.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, we lost Nick and Janae. It wasn't me for once. But I guess I'll jump into my recommendations.
We're back.
So, I mean,
We're back.
You know, I was going to jump out there with Bitterroot, and you know, we've covered Bitterroot pretty well, I think. I was going to jump out there with Sam Wilson, Captain America, by a white guy. Still phenomenal, though. Still a really solid read. Hell yeah for Sam Wilson as Captain America. So I'm gonna get heavy though. Talk about March by John Lewis. His story throughout the civil rights struggle, and it's profound. It's deeply profound and heavy. You will have a difficult time reading this book because it is so unsettling. And I mean, it made me well up with tears in places, but it's just that powerful. It is for the civil rights movement what Mouse is for the Holocaust, point blank. This was his story, and March just absolutely brilliant testament to just a defining time in American history and Black American history. And I cannot recommend March highly enough, but make sure you've got your emotional nerves of steel set, because it's a tough read. So that's my big recommendation. I think we've covered a lot of the other stuff that I might have thrown out there. So I thought I would just like end us all in somber silence with March.
Yeah,
It's very applicable to the time right now.
It is, you know, and you know, Michael, thank you so much for joining us for our episode this week. Sorry, we've had some rather unprofessional technical glitches, mostly me.
It's fine.
We try to be a well-oiled machine, but
I'm not that professional myself, so
yeah, you know, we come on here week in, week out, and we talk about comics and escapism, and you know, we analyze, and sometimes we talk trash, and we have a good laugh in there, but it's really hard to sink our teeth into escapism right now with everything that's going on in the country. And it just seemed like the right time to set aside our business as usual and do an episode to in tribute and to highlight Black exceptionalism and LGBTQ, because it's just such an important thing, and we're not talking about it enough. We can never talk about it enough. And, you know, thank you so much for joining us this week. And
thank you for having me. And it's Pride Month. Happy Pride, people.
You know, we put out a statement for Comic Watch about a week ago, and it was a picture of Black Panther and he had his fist raised, and above it the caption read, basically that just injustice is can never be tolerated. I'm sorry, I forget. It's very profound wording, I assure you, but it speaks to who we are, not just here on the Comic Watchers show, but Comic Watch as an organization, and it's something that we believe in equality and justice, and there's just so little of that on display right now. And there have been amidst the chaos wonderful acts of compassion and kindness, and it makes you really glad to be a part of a group of people who are like-minded and see the world in equal terms and want to see everybody get a fair shake. And just for this 1 week, if we can filter that worldview through the realm of comics and hopefully put some good eye-opening books in people's hands, then I mean, hell, let's do it. Well, I hope we've succeeded to some degree or another. It's not for me to say whether we have or not, but I guess that's kind of where we're going to close out for this week, though. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Michael Simeon of Black Gay Comic Nerd. Check his channel out on YouTube. And
Black Gay Comic
Black
Geek.
Gay Comic Geek.
God, I knew I was going to butcher that at some point.
It's fine.
Man, I'm so sorry. But this has been episode 85 of the Comic Watcher Show. I am Matt. This is Nick. This is Mike. And thank you all so much for listening. You can check us out on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, anywhere finer podcasts are. Just remember, go out in the world and just freaking be kind and good to each other, and stand up in the face of bigotry and oppression, and you'll always be on the right side. Thank you all very much for listening.
Bye. Excelsior.
Yeah.